Hey, we're here.
All right, we're back.
Oh, hey, welcome back to a Metalhead's Journey. Today, we are going to continue our trek down the top 50 metal albums of all time. And we're going to talk about one that's near and dear to my heart here. This is the number 22 metal album of all time. This is Heaven and Hell from Black Sabbath. So
Yeah.
good times for me, man. So, the last couple albums that we've done were death records because this is a death channel. So, Dave and Adrian kind of got to have that lifetime, love and time to be with that record. This is one of those records for me. This is one of those I've been listening to for like 25 years. So I was excited to see it pop up, and nobody else has really got to spend any time with it. So I'm excited to hear some reviews here on the record. So let's hit some of the some quick background of the band, and then we'll get into it.
All right.
So Black Sabbath formed in 1968 as an English metal band from Birmingham, England. The band was originally formed by Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Bill Ward, and Ozzy Osbourne. The version that we're going to talk about tonight, though, is the one that's actually fronted by Ronnie James Dio. So Dio joins the band in 1979. Dio's going to show up a couple more times here on this list, and as will Black Sabbath. So we're not really going to deep dive either one of them here for this one. It's kind of an oddball. But we'll spend some more time talking about Dio and Black Sabbath later in terms of their actual histories. But Dio did do 2 records with Black Sabbath. They did Heaven and Hell, which is the one we're doing tonight, and they did Mob Rules. So the band saw a pretty significant shift in their sound with the addition of Dio, coming from like more of a doom metal sound to something that was a little bit more upbeat. I don't know. I even felt more 80s-ish, right? Little interesting fact I didn't know. It was actually Ozzy's wife, Sharon, that recommended Dio to replace Ozzy in the band.
Yep. I didn't know that.
It was before they were married.
Yeah. Heaven and Hell the album Heaven and Hell was released in 1980. This is Black Sabbath's 9th record, but it's actually the first one featuring Ronnie James Dio. This album peaked at 28 on the Billboard charts, which was the highest charting album the band ever had in any iteration of Black Sabbath. The album originally was slated to feature Ozzy, but due to his drug use and other factors, he was removed / left Black Sabbath. Enter Dio, who had a completely different take on vocals than Ozzy, more so choosing to sing over the riffs versus singing with the riffs, which gave the band, I think breathed a little bit of new life into the band. I think it gave him some new ideas, helped change the sound, right? Because, again, the sound on this record was a pretty big departure from their earlier work. The album did produce 3 singles, Neon Nights, Lady Evil, and Die Young.
All right.
Oddly enough, not the title track, but I guess because it's a little too long. So,
Yeah.
Hey, let's jump here into the metal rundown. So, musicianship. What'd you guys think of the record, man? This is, I want to hear what you guys think.
Well, let me go ahead and pop in real quick here.
Do it.
So, upon first listen, even when we jammed Neon Nights last week, it was just like, I was a little worried about what we were getting into. And upon first listen, I was impressed here and there. But then every time I kept listening to the album, I liked it more and I liked it more. And just things about it that I wasn't catching the first time, I'm getting, I'm just catching new shit every time I listen to it. I listened to it right before we got on one last time, and again, I just fucking loved it more. I think this album fucking rules, and straight up, I really do. It had to grow on me, though. I will admit it. It had to grow on me. It's a grower. It's a grower, not a shower. Now,
there you go.
For me, the standout musician is going to be Geezer Butler on bass. Man, this dude came out and fucking kicked ass for me. I felt like that's what I was listening to for the most part while I was, kind of revisiting parts or revisiting the album. And, shout out to Tony Iommi. His fucking guitar work is great, but I really felt like the bass is the show stealer on this album. Yeah.
For me, it's I would say overall my perspective is very similar to Adrian's, although well, I'll just kind of get into my notes here. So I feel like musicianship wise, all 4 members do a great job. It's clear that Bill, Tony, and Geezer, they've been playing together for a while now, up to this point in the record, and I think it shows. They're super tight. The music is tight. But one thing that, especially on the first 2 to 3 passes of the record, I just felt like there was a distinct lack of that classic, like, evil Black Sabbath sound that I have grown accustomed to expecting. And it almost, I had to basically reprogram myself to basically not expect Black Sabbath, because I don't think that's not what this record is. And instead of judging this record on what it isn't, I tried to judge it for what it was, and that really helped me kind of break through some initial apprehension with the record. And but just speaking to as far as the musicianship, I mean, stellar work. Geezer, obviously, and Dio, absolutely great vocalist. I mean, I think he, from a pure technical standpoint, is easily an upgrade.
He might be the best singer in metal.
I think he's definitely on the Sweet 16 list of metal vocalists for sure. But yeah, musicianship, very, very high marks from me.
Fossil.
All right, I'm going to agree with a little bit of what both of the gentlemen said. Dio is in my opinion, a better vocalist. Even though his singing style is not my cup of tea exactly, because he takes into the higher range more than often than I probably enjoy. But he's super solid.
Black metal enough for you, huh?
Yeah, you can't deny the ability. The bass, though, Geezer is a beast. The bass is so good on this album. Some of the songs, it is the driver of the song, start to finish. There are other instances in which he does go along with the rhythm, but it's always here. You could always hear it in almost every single song. Now, while Geezer is a beast on the album, I do wish, I do rather have lead guitar or the primary guitarist be a little bit louder in the volume, because there are some songs in which all I hear is the bass line. Again, I'm not saying that's terrible or bad. I'm just saying there are times when I wish the guitar riffs were at equal volume and that the bass was driving the power behind it a little bit more. But the musicianship on this album is great.
Yeah. I think, Dave, to your point, going back to a little bit of thinking of what Black Sabbath is, right? I think it's easier to think about these guys as just a different band. Later on in life, when they got back together under a different moniker, right? It wasn't Black Sabbath anymore. They called themselves Heaven and Hell. And I think that's a good way to kind of think about it, because you're right, it doesn't feel very Black Sabbath-y. Hey, look, man, I've been listening to this record for a long ass time. I love the record. I think the only person that is not quite as prominent on the record as he is on other records is Bill Ward, the drummer.
I agree.
I think if you go back and listen to albums like Paranoid and Masters of Reality, I think he's equally as massive a part of the record as Geezer and Tony are. And this one, it feels kind of transitional. And if you go back and read some of the stuff that he's talked about on the record, he is himself a little confused about where does he fit in this record, right? It wasn't like this. I mean, he was fine. Like, he's not it doesn't drag the record down at all, but no. He's also, like, later on in different iterations of the band, when they actually form Heaven and Hell, it's Vinny Appice playing drums, and it's not Bill Ward anymore. So, I don't think he was as into the band as maybe the other guys were.
I did read an interview concerning that said that at this time in this iteration of it, he was heavily alcohol to the levels of which he doesn't remember a lot of any of this.
Yeah.
Shit.
One thing I did want to clear up, because there is a comment on our Neon Nights video about something that I said about Tony Iommi being underrated. Look, obviously everybody understands Tony Iommi is like the fucking king of the riff. I mean, he'll go down as one of the 4 best riff writers in metal history. Has to. But as a lead guitar player, I think he is a little Y4 just because like Mount Rushmore. You know, I think he is underrated as a lead guitarist because you don't think about him that way. And I think he really shows up really well on this album as a lead guitarist. I think the solos are really good on this record. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still surprised by him to this day, and I've heard him a million times. So musicianship wise, they showed up great.
The bass lines behind the solos, though, dude, I feel like they almost steal the show from the solos themselves.
Dude, Geezer,
especially on.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was saying, like, especially on the song "Lonely Is the Word." Like, man, dude, the guitar solo isn't shit without the bass line behind it in that song.
I read an article earlier. Was talking about this. They actually had another bass player laid down different bass lines for the entire album because
Geezer had to step away from the band for a minute. He had to step away from the band for a minute, and then he came back, and they moved the guy to keyboards, the guy that was playing in there. So
got it.
So he re-recorded all of the bass lines.
Yes,
and he's like, what the fuck is this?
And there's also a version of "Children of the Sea" out there somewhere
with Ozzy,
and completely different lyrics and melodies.
Look, I love Ozzy, but that's not a version I want to hear. So, entertainment value. I'll go first here. Look, the album comes in just over 40 minutes, so this is another album that's kind of a quick, easy breeze for us to listen to. I think what's fun about this record versus, I mean, even like comparing it to Death, because obviously this is a Death channel, so we have to bring it up. But comparing it to Death last week, right, where it's not, Death isn't necessarily one note, but it's all heavy kind of all the time. Whereas I feel like this album gives you a little bit of everything. I think there's something for everybody to be able to really like on this record, no matter what kind of metal you're in. And so I think that really lends to the entertainment value for the record. But dude, just a cool fucking upbeat, just feels good. Just a sick metal record, man. I love it.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. So, as I mentioned, I think once I got over the hump of kind of my initial expectations versus what I got, I think I did learn to really enjoy this record, and I think it helped. It helped that the record. I always feel like 8 songs. For some reason, 8 songs seems to be the magic number for me, and. This is a very quick listen. Like, I feel like by the time Heaven and Hell ends, it's like, damn, this record's already halfway over. Like, that was quick. That was a fast 4 songs. Right?
That's what she said.
So, overall, like, I think the entertainment value is pretty high in general. Like, to Josh's point, I think all the songs do sound unique. Unique enough to where they don't blur into each other, so that you're just able to kind of know where you are in the album based on what song you're on, which you can't say the same about all the records we reviewed on this list.
Nope.
Yeah. Jason?
Yeah, I'll go. I'm gonna. It's almost like we compared notes. I liked this album more than I thought. I didn't even know this was a non-Ozzy record until we did the live reaction song last week. So that actually kind of was a good thing, because going into this album, I think I might have liked it less if I went into it hitting play for the first time thinking I was going to hear Ozzy. Again, to what both of you guys said, the songs range in style, and I would guess that there is something on this album for just about everybody. And like I said, I enjoyed it more than I thought. Hands down.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, entertainment value for me is going to be very, very high. Again, it was a grower, not a shower for me. But once it grew, man,
Was
again, I fucking love
massive.
this album. I even called my dad to talk about it. And it's funny because he's kind of saying the same things that some of the shit that Josh was saying, where he doesn't consider it, or he and his friends at the time, they didn't consider it Black Sabbath. It's just like a whole different animal. And it's pretty funny. He was telling me that his cover band at the time, they wanted to play Neon Nights, but he didn't want to play that song. But the compromise was if he learns Neon Nights and plays it, they have to play Heaven and Hell. So, yeah. Anyway, pretty cool. Yeah, great fucking album. And dude, I'm right there with Jason and you guys. Was not expecting this to be what it was, but man, it fucking rules, dude. And it's Josh, you once said this about Motorhead. The album, help me out here.
Ace of Spades.
Ace of Spades. The album is a vibe, man. I feel, and something interesting I realized when talking to my dad about this was, if you look at songs like Neon Nights, Lady Evil, Walk Away, interesting name for a song, huh?
Yeah.
Walk Away. It's like if these were Van Halen songs, we'd fucking love them, right? But I guess people hear that it's Black Sabbath, and it's like, eh. And that's kind of my initial. That's how I felt about them initially. But when you just kind of let that shit go and just let the album happen to you and just try to enjoy it for what it is, man, it's really fucking good. I do think there's one stinker on here, and I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there.
No. Hold it, because we're about to talk about that on the next thing. So let's move to top tracks here real quick, or track discussion. Cool. So here we're gonna each give our top 3 tracks in order, obvious, and we'll give Adrian a chance to share his low light. So go ahead, Adrian, share your low light, and then give us your top 3 there.
You need this
Wishing
Apple
Well
verification code 413761.
Oh.
Jason, what are you doing? You're killing me.
I bet.
Yeah, Wishing Well. I just think it's the weak link on the album. Only song I didn't really vibe with. Anyway, highlights. Number 3 for me is Die Young. Number 2 for me is Heaven and Hell. Number 1 for me is Lonely Is the Word. That is a motherfucking jam.
There you go. You going all bluesy.
That's a good top 3.
Yeah. I'll jump in here. Look, I know this is sacrilege, but my low light is Neon Nights. I don't think that song represents the rest of the album. At least, I just think it's the lowest point on the record, and I was getting to the point where I immediately wanted to skip it and go to the next song, because the next song is one of my highlights. So my highlights are Wishing Well, Adrian's dumb, Children of the Sea, and I think for me, just the complete Stars Align song, Heaven and Hell, like that to me is that is the only Black Sabbath record or song on this record, if that makes sense.
Hey, look, it might be the best written Black Sabbath song I've heard. It might be.
I feel like that song is like that's the only song on this record that I could picture Ozzy singing. If he had to, I don't know how well he would do it. Probably.
Great question. Do they ever sing each other's eras of songs?
Well, so I think then, right, whenever he joined Sabbath, I think they did some of that. But when they kind of reformed as Heaven and Hell, they did that specifically so like fans would know you're not getting War Pigs, you're not getting Paranoid, like you're only getting
Dio,
Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules, that stuff.
Got it.
Makes sense.
So
yeah, Fossil, what you got?
Track highlights. Number 3, Neon Nights. Dave, you're stupid.
Okay.
2, Heaven and Hell. And number 1, without a shadow of doubt, by a large margin, Children of the Sea. The only low light I had, and I agree with Adrian, Wishing Well.
Y'all are dumb as fuck.
Nice.
Y'all are dumb as fuck. All right. Hey, just a couple honorable men. Actually, here, I'll give you my low light. There's only one low light on this record. I mean, low light may be a bit aggressive, but it's definitely a low point. That's Walk Away. It's a skipper. It's a skipper. Yeah.
Okay.
It's definitely a skipper. Honorable mention, I got Die Young and Lonely is the Word. Both great songs. Number 3 for me, an absolute fucking banger on this record. Wishing Well. Adrian, I don't understand how you can fondle Geezer Butler's nuts this whole fucking video and then just shit all over his fucking shining moment on this album.
Dude,
Like,
Wishing Well is
he's
so good.
crushing
He's
I wish
crushing.
him well. I wish him well.
on this record.
Not into it, man.
I think it's
Number
great.
and I think I honestly think it's Dio's best song too. Number 2 for me, Children of the Sea. Just, I mean, an all-time fucking classic.
Josh, do
Love
we have the
it.
same top 3 or what?
Number 1 for me. I don't understand how you could say it's anything other than the title track for this, Heaven and Hell. Dave, you are an incredibly intelligent individual.
I had it as my number 2.
Dude, that is dude, Heaven and Hell, just the fucking riff is so nice. You know, look, it could be a bit shorter. It could be, but it doesn't hurt.
I think.
But the riff,
I think it could be 10 minutes longer.
God. But the riff is just nice. So, hey, let's get into the production on the album here real quick. I just want to call out the producer for this record. His name is Martin Birch. Hey, you may have heard of some of the bands and some of the records that he produced. He's worked with bands like Iron Maiden, Blue Oyster Cult, Whitesnake, Rainbow, Fleetwood Mac. No big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the way, like Iron Maiden
Yeah.
produced like 10 of their records, including Number of the Beast and some of the main ones that
Nice.
we're going to hear later on down the line. So we'll see him again. Yeah, what'd you guys think about the production, man? I look, for 1980s, I think it sounds pretty damn good, man. I love
Dude,
the record. I love the way it sounds.
It has no right. It has no right to sound that good from 1980, man. Unless we're listening to some kind of remaster.
It's a
Maybe
we
we
are
are.
listening to a remaster.
2008
Yeah.
remaster.
Okay, gotcha. Well, shit, dude, it sounds fucking phenomenal. And
Yeah.
there's Jason, you were saying that there's parts where the bass is kind of like, I guess, louder than the guitar. Man, I don't know. I feel like it works for.
Oh
this
no, I'm not
album,
saying it
you know?
doesn't. It's just for my personal music taste. I like the bass when it follows the rhythm of the guitar, or your because there's only one guitarist. I like it when it's right underneath the main guitar riff, and it brings power to the riff. I just there are times for me that I don't hear enough of the guitar itself to make it crunchy.
Gotcha.
Yeah, well, they're treating it they're treating it truly as basically like the second guitar in the band, right? So that's the kind of treatment it gets. And to be fair, like, in most cases, you would think like the lead singer and the guitar player are like the two main people in the band. Well, it's Geezer and Tony are the two main people in the band. Like, Tony and Geezer write a lot of the music, but Geezer writes all the vocals, like all the lyrics and all that stuff. So this is really like Ozzy was really like a singer for hire in the band. Excuse me. I think Dio had some more input on it, but like Ozzy didn't write a lot of lyrics for Black Sabbath. A lot of that stuff was all Geezer. So I think Geezer gets a little bit more say in the band. So I think he gets a little bit more say in the volume of the bass on the record. So I think that's why you kind of get equal billing there sometimes. And the fact that he's just a fucking monster. I think that helps too, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my general takeaway from the audio. Sounds great for an 80s, even though we're listening to the remastered version. The only thing that I wish is the guitar with a little more power in it. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, look, overall, I have no complaints with the audio. The production, I think, is great. It has a very, it has that very, like, classic rock / old school metal sound with the very prominent bass. For some reason, occasionally I would get very Led Zeppelin vibes when listening to this. And that probably has to do with Dio and his vocals being, in the same like stadium as Robert Plant. So, but overall, no complaints from a production standpoint. I think it sounds great.
Yeah. Ultimately, I could not hear Ozzy Osbourne on this album. if they had written it prior to including him, like I couldn't hear it, man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think I didn't really talk about Dio a lot, but I think his vocals worked here.
I think Ozzy, right? Like I think when I think about Black Sabbath writing for Ozzy, that's music they're trying to scare you with, right? That was their initial, like when they wrote their first albums, they wanted to try and scare you with their music. And I think when you think about it that way, I think Ozzy's a great frontman for that band at that time because he was so unique and so different, but so unique, and just like the sound was like frightening, right? It wasn't traditionally good, whereas Dio is so polished, right? And it just comes out with these soaring vocals, and so the band just it's totally different.
Yeah.
Legacy. So here in the legacy area, we like to give what's called our metal ratings here. So we give this on a scale of a 1 to 10 rating system. Higher the better.
Anything above a 5 is a recommend.
Yeah. So if somebody gives this a 6, number one, they're going to be fired from the pod or from the YouTube channel here. But if they give this a 6, it's still a recommend of varying levels. Anything below a 5 is varying levels of absolute dog shit, and we wouldn't recommend that for you at all.
Yeah. So just for the sake of explaining it, so like anything between a 5 and a 6 is considered like a C tier. So while not amazing, we would still think it's good. If it's 6 or above, it's B, A, or S, depending on how high it goes. So it doesn't take just to give you an idea of how our rating system works. So do you want to go with ratings first, or do we want to just talk about the legacy first, Josh?
For the legacy, just go ahead and give it your rating.
Yep.
Okay, I'll go first here. Like I said, I think Adrian, you said it the best. This album is definitely a grower, not a shower. And Josh, I completely agree as well. Thinking of this as not Black Sabbath, also really, I think, because it just doesn't, outside of Heaven and Hell, it really doesn't bear much resemblance to that, the paranoid Masters of Reality era Black Sabbath, right? This is not that same band. I mean, this is their 9th record, so they're not they evolved, right? They evolved. So overall, I initially, like I said, first I thought this would not belong on the record or belong on the list, but I flipped that, and I do want to listen to more Dio specifically. I mean, obviously, we're going to listen to more Sabbath, but specifically Dio. This is my first big foray into Dio as the frontman, and I am definitely intrigued. My rating for this changed the most that it's ever had in recent memory, and I ended up on a 7.2.
All right.
Right on.
That is a very, very good score.
Is
let
it,
me,
Dave?
Let me
Is
pop
it?
in here.
I think you need to reevaluate.
Hey, look, man. I legitimately don't think this is gonna be a bold statement, but it's what I believe, that there would be no Master of Puppets if this album didn't exist. Like, seriously. I mean, the writing on this album is, dude, look, I mean, if you go back to some, Ozzy Black Sabbath, the way they wrote music was just so fucking simple and almost shocking how simple it is, but we go to this album and it's just, I mean, it's a completely different fucking band. As far as legacy goes, check it out, man. I've said it a bunch of times. This album makes me want to whip out my guitar. This album made me want to whip out my bass. So, I think this is fucking awesome. I do want to continue listening to this era of Sabbath for sure. I do think it belongs on the list as well. I am giving this an 8.0.
Hey, there you go, Dave. That's what you should have given it.
Dude, look, look, we changed our rating system, and now you want to just throw out just fucking the lowest. You want to throw out the best scores ever.
That's right.
All right, I'll go next. This is a solid album. I'm going to piggyback on something that Dave brought up. There is a lot of different sounds on this album for me in particular. I didn't go bother to really look it up, so I don't know who influenced who on every song, but I got Leonard Skinner vibes on Children of the Sea. I got Pink Floyd vibes from Heaven and Hell. I got I got Kiss from Walk Away and some Southern Rock from Walk Away.
As soon as you said that to me about that song, that instantly now that song for me. That's literally all I can hear is fucking Paul Stanley playing guitar. I'm like,
all I can hear when I hear Walk Away is the song Lick It Up. And then Lonely is the Word, very bluesy, it's slower paced. I gave this.
I fucking love that song, man.
I gave this album a 7.0, 7 flat. Only because, again, Dio is just not my exact style of singing. But
me either.
I would say this: I'm not sure you could make a better album after replacing Ozzy and compounding the issues with Geezer missing most of all of the work that got put into this album, coming in at the last second, re-recording all of the bass, and the drummer also being pretty much drunk off his ass for most of the experience. I don't know if you could make a better album. I honestly don't. Like, I can't think of an album in which a band came together, replaced integral parts, was missing half the band for probably half the setup, and still put out a solid album.
So I just want to throw this in here, Josh, before you slide in and give this a 10. So just because I saw you made a face when Jason gave his score, Jason is only given a score greater than 7 or above 4 other times thus far
on this journey.
I don't even want to know what those albums were, because I know one of them's got to be fucking Venom, and that's gonna make me sick.
No, I think Venom got a.
Okay. Tell me what it is then. Alice in Chains, Metallica.
So And Justice for All. Now I'm like, okay, Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power, Alice in Chains, Dirt, Tool, Enema. There was like 3 albums in a row where Jason was living.
Tool.
Living on
Tool.
High. Yeah,
motherfucker. Dude, Geezer Butler, 10 times the bass player Justin Chancellor is.
I'm trying to defend Jason because, like, look. He does not throw out scores willy-nilly like the rest of us do.
And also, everybody needs to understand, whoever might be coming across this video, I'm the elder statesman. And so there is an on average, maybe 8 to 10 year jump. So I am coming from a different space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, like I said, I think I've had the longest time with this record. This was the first time. I've always been a very this or that kind of person, right? It's Metallica or Megadeth. It's whatever, Xbox or PlayStation, right? So
toxic, Josh.
Huh?
That's toxic, Josh.
Yeah, I know. This is the first time I ever allowed myself to cross the aisle and really like both things, like Dio and Ozzy, because they're so different. I love this record from the first time I heard it. It's a classic. Funny, like, I don't know if it's just by happenstance, but this is also, it came out in the same year as Back in Black from AC/DC, which was another established band that was trotting out a brand new singer that also, I mean, look, this record performed well. This record sold like 1 million records. Back in Black has sold like 25 million records. No big deal. But, just kind of interesting time frame there for metal and for hard rock. So much good stuff coming out then. Look, man, I'm coming in with a 9 for this record. I think this is an all-time classic record. It does have one skipper, which keeps it from going into the decimals, into the 9s for me, but the other songs are so strong.
So that gives us an average score of 7.8, which for us is considered an A-tier record. Just for those keeping score, we've only only one album has made it into S tier territory just between the four of us. It's really difficult for an album to get into S tier. So A tier for us is an absolute recommend, completely great record, like Josh said, one or two blemishes, but absolutely great record.
Yeah.
What
so
is
I know
the
that-
one S tier record?
And Justice for All.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know this falls into its right place on the list behind the three death records, as it should. Hey, I hope you guys like the review here of Heaven and Hell, dude. Just a great all-time record. I'm glad these guys enjoyed it. I was a little nervous about it going into it, but I'm glad they did. Next album coming up on the list is going to be Operation Mindcrime from the band Queensryche. So hopefully you'll check that out coming from us sometime down the line here. In the meantime, if you like all the metal content that we're doing here, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We're committed to putting out new metal content every week, album reviews, reactions. We're going to be talking about some new metal releases coming up here pretty soon. So there's going to be all kinds of cool stuff coming down the pipe. So hopefully you like it all. Hopefully you stick around for it. We'll see you next time. Live long and prosper.
Take it easy, everybody.
Later.